Welcome everyone to this second Funders Forum event, which we are holding live. And I'm really happy to see so many of you, given that this was organized under a very short time frame. So really happy to see that so many of you made it here. Those of you who are still coming in, please find a seat. We have enough space also up front here. Don't be scared. And we also a big welcome to the participants online. So the first part of the meeting will be streamed and recorded online. And the second part will have interactive discussions among this group. So for those of you online, you will not be able to follow. So again, welcome. My name is Jasmina van Driel. I'm from ZonMW, the Dutch research funding organization for healthcare and development. And I'm, of course, not the only one organizing this. We are in a big team, and we will introduce the team a bit later in this forum. Maybe some boring elements first, some brief house rules. Online participants are automatically muted. And for those of you online, please use the Q&A window. There's a special Q&A window in the Zoom webinar software. And please indicate to which speaker you're addressing the question. The meeting is being recorded. And for the live participants, we do it the old-fashioned way. You can just raise your hand. Someone will pass a mic. And we have dedicated question and answer sessions. So if you have anything, any questions during a presentation, please keep them and collect them for those specific sessions. So just to have an idea of who is in the room, we don't have time to introduce everyone, but just out of curiosity, so that we all know, who is here that represents the agro-food domain? Interesting. Anyone from only the agricultural domain? Environmental domain? Please stand up so we can all see you. Okay, we have two environmentalists, the health domain, nutrition specifically, social sciences. Yeah, please stand up. Welcome. We need also the social scientists, economics. Yeah, you can have more than one hat, obviously. Educational experts. Yeah, please stand up. Nice to have you. Policy experts. Yeah, also good to have you. The generalists among us. Well, I would be standing up then, but I'm already standing. So who did not stand up? So what would you say you represent? So in terms of thematics, a generalist, everything. Yeah, so a generalist, I would say. So you have knowledge of a lot of different themes. Yeah, okay. So that's good to know, because we are going to be talking about a systems perspective today. So it's also good to have this broad view. Just a quick run through the program. The first part of the program will be revolving a bit around giving you an update and more information on the state of play on the Sustainable Food Systems Partnership development. First on the state of play of FOODPathS and Work Package 3 and what we're doing under that, and then a bit more on the Sustainable Food Systems Partnership. Special welcome to our guest speaker, Daniela Lutz from the EC, from DG RTD. Then we will have an update from our colleagues from ANR, Gilles Ferron and Claude Yvain. Also a special welcome to you as guest speakers. And then we will dive into more the systems, the food systems approach to funding. We will be discussing interesting examples, We will have an interactive session after lunch. That's really a working session. So that will be only for the live participants, as I mentioned. And then at the end, there's some more time for drinks and networking. And we have quite a packed program. We have some timekeepers in the room that are going to help us to keep strict time. So I'll just go quickly through this presentation as well. We already shared the objectives. We want to share updates. We want to also collect these examples. So during the different sessions of food systems funding approaches, and we're not looking for perfect examples, of course. I mean, maybe there are some interesting projects or initiatives that you've been involved in that have some elements of a food systems approach. And we want to test these approaches on real life topics. And you also provided us your expectations, so we tried to balance them between what we wanted to provide to you and what you wanted to get out of it, especially also these inspiring exchanges that you mentioned. So we have also built in time for interaction. And all of this, oh, I'm sorry, there's a bit of an issue with the outline here. Anyway, I won't go through the whole slide, but just to give you a gist of we had an initial funders forum in November last year. That was online. We had different working groups doing some preliminary work on systems approaches. And what we wanted to see in this the new sustainable food systems partnership that's being developed, what needs to happen to really serve this food systems lens. And these are some of the things that among the different groups that came out. So it was really about not funding the usual suspects, looking at a multidisciplinary, intradisciplinary approach, and really also about co-creation with different stakeholders, but also using these living labs and policy lab approaches or mechanisms. Supporting local and regional approaches for scaling, and also for experience exchange. There was mention of more coherent public policy when we really want to change the food systems or food systems, not only connecting also to large corporations, but really looking at SMEs throughout Europe and connecting, although not included in the partnership, but connecting to primary production as well somehow. So yes, then what do we need from you? Because it's not only sit back and relax today, it's also doing a bit of work and really trying to dive a bit deeper into what do we need to change in our funding practices, what needs to be done to serve this partnership best. So we need your expertise and experience on this. And we're also looking for these examples. As I mentioned, they don't have to be perfect examples, but maybe there are some interesting projects out there that already have some elements of a food systems approach. So please share them. And also share bad examples of things that you have tried but didn't work. I know that's sometimes hard, but yeah, I think we are a very empathic group, so it would also help us to learn. And we need willingness and openness, like I said, to also exchange on what did not work for you or for in your projects. Nicola. My dear colleague Nicola, coordinating work package 3, I would like to.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jasmina, and warm welcome from my side as well. So my name is Nicola Hassan from Research Center in Jülich, Germany, and it is my pleasure to be with you today and together with our team that you will meet later. Yeah, so this is a FOODPath event, so we cannot do it without a short introduction also to FOODPath, the CSA project, which aims to really help preparing the partnership. We started mid of last year, and this is really a network of networks. So we have 17 partners from 19 networks. And there's, of course, a lot to do to prepare for this food systems partnership. The work packages in FOODPath, I will not go through, just so that you understand that FOODPath as a project has, besides the management and the communication, has one central work package, work package 2 in the middle, which really tries to bring together everything to co-create the prototype partnership, to work on systems approach, modus operandi, and governance model. And around these, we have a number of work packages that feed into this. So you see work package 3 about co-funding. You see work package 4 about food system labs. In the work package 5, it's about the educational system and the universities. In work package 6, it's about policy processes and also the SRIA. And in work package 7, it's about co-benefits and trade-offs. So this is really also looking on the local scale, also on the global scale, where are really the interconnections, where are also the benefits and trade-offs when you look at a systems approach. And this is quite ambitious, but it's also very inspiring that a lot of different people from a lot of different sectors come together to work here in FOODPath. So today we focus on the work package 3 about co-funding, and our aim is really to build a food systems co-funding network and to align funding strategies. So this is our team in work package 3. Maybe you could all stand up just once so that you see who is here. So we have our colleagues from Denmark, from ICROFS and Aarhus University. We have there's UFIC colleagues taking care about communication. We have the colleagues from BioEast here. We have the colleagues from Philea. So where's Julia? Yes. SAS Food colleagues. Frank? Yes, very good. We have the colleagues from Finland representing area network of regions. And of course, we have ZonMW representing JPI HDHL. So happy to have you all here. Sorry? Yes. So in work package 3, what we aim at and what are our activities? What have we done already? So our aim is to connect. We have built up the funders network. I hope many of you are in this network. We share information here. We also try to exchange. And we have the map of funders. It's on the website. It looks like this. And you can filter, see what funders are working in the food systems domain. And you can also click on them to see, okay, this is, for example, a regional funder that has certain priorities. And you can just have a look. We want to go and get into dialogue with you. So we have the Funders Forum events. Jasmina just mentioned the one in November last year. We also did some interviews with funders and surveys, and we also want to co-create. So the food systems approach in funding is today our focus, but we will also think, for example, about how to support funded projects in their endeavor to really implement a systems approach. So just quickly for the future, what will happen next? Of course, we will continue building up the funders network and the map. So if you have not signed up, please do so. We will have more Funders Forum events. So we plan 2 more this year. And of course, we will work on the integration of the food systems approach in funding. So today we have this important workshop, but we will also try to involve other stakeholders, the researchers, the experts, everybody who's active in the funding cycle. And we want to test our findings. So after today, we will extract the results and do feedback loops and also consult with these other stakeholders. And in the end, we want to develop guidelines and recommendations that can be taken up by the partnership. Yeah, so again, if you have examples, good examples of systems approaches, please think about it. And if something comes to your mind, please share it with us. It could be projects. It could also be funding programs. and please share your experiences.
Thank you, Nicola. I would like to call Daniela for your presentation. Just going to start it up. Oh, schermdelen is gestopt. Oh, this mouse is not.
Yeah. Okay. I try to be. Hello, everyone. Good morning. A pleasure to be here. I try to be my own timekeeper, and what I will do really within the next 10 minutes is to give you an overview a bit on how the partnership fits into the landscape of partnerships. So I think it's good to take a step back and see where is this partnership fitting in. The process we are in, so what happened, what are the next steps really on the bigger picture, and also the different ways on how FOODPathS, we as the Commission Services, but also SCA, the Standing Committee of Agricultural Research, fit in within the partnership. And then really just very briefly, as this was a main question also in previous discussions, the difference between internal and external calls, but very briefly on that one. So I will here we go. Thank you. So what you see here, and no need to read it all, but it's really just for an understanding, we have within Horizon Europe, we have 49 partnerships. That's immense. It's a real partnership landscape. And within Cluster 6, so that's kind of the fourth bucket there, we have 8 partnerships, and 4 have been launched in the recent Horizon Europe work program 23-24, all as 23 calls. That is agriculture of data, animal health and welfare, this food systems partnership, and agriculture of data. And the 4 I mentioned, they all are co-created really within SCA. So they have a similar process they're part of. But this also should give you an idea of if this partnership, once this partnership comes to life, there's really need to create synergies by design with other partnerships that have overlapping areas they work with. For example, agroecology to look at the production part, but also agriculture of data, and also others you see here. So it's really good to be aware of those, as these partnerships are really cornerstone of Horizon Europe, saying we have so big challenges that we need to create something beyond calls, which is partnerships which are really long-term strategic collaborations to work together from different ends. And I think this partnership is so fantastic because it really picks up the systems approach with different actors to work together. Now, looking at the partnership process, just to show you, and this is really just a snapshot, it started already much earlier, but I won't go in the interest of time into detail. But if we just look at what happened starting in 2022, the Strategic Research and Innovation Agenda was the SRIA, was created by the core group, which was anchored within the SCA Food Systems Strategic Working Group. And at the same time, we sent a request to member states, associated countries, and candidate associated countries to ask for their indicative commitments. And that was really to see, will these partnerships come alive? Of course, they have been co-created with the program committee before, but just now it was really about looking into indicative commitments in cash and in kind. And I think FOODPathS now has a much more detailed overview based on the surveys you did, but that was the initial overview to see, do we have a good spread? Do we have enough commitment behind to really launch these partnerships? And we did for all the 4 partnerships from Cluster 6 I mentioned. Now, this partnership is launched in a call from the Horizon Europe work program. There's still the link to the info days where this is presented. And at the same time, the SRIA was put to a public open consultation ending last year. And what we have done now, the final draft SRIA has been sent to our horizontal unit, so it's under final check, so to say. As you all know, the call for proposals open ending on the 12th of April. What is a bit different in this set of partnerships, since we have the Horizon Europe Work Program 23-24, but it's the partnership lasts longer across other funding mechanisms, but here will be exceptionally one single grant agreement that of course can be amended with new partners along the way. Now, that's the process horizontally. How does that look in terms of concept? And so basically what you see, and that's the Funders Forum also today organized by FOODPathS, it brings the partnership to life. And at the same time also supported by the Commission services, so DG Research and Innovation, and also SCA. And what is important here is that, and Nicola already mentioned it, or Yasmina, one of you did, the lifetime of FOODPathS. So it will be, FOODPathS will still be there when the partnership comes into place, but it will end before. So I think that's important to keep in mind, that the activities and mechanisms FOODPathS is doing still when the partnership is there, at some point the partnership has to do that on their own. While of course FOODPathS has strong power to do things now also with a different funding mechanism than the partnership. Then, of course, the Commission services will be there during the whole lifetime, and how that looks like in detail needs to be defined in the governance section. And then also we have SCA. So SCA really did a great job in really bringing all these partnerships to life, and also aligning these partnerships and having important discussions and also outreach to member states. And SCA will continue having a role in that, especially when it comes to alignment of partnerships activities. So just so you are aware of like these 3 mechanisms to integrate and to make use of, basically. Now, as a real short last point, as this came up a couple of times also in the previous Funders Forum, we thought we put it up here again, and we have discussed it also within SCA with the partnerships. There will be internal and external calls, which are basically opportunities to use. And the only difference is really how they're organized and how cost categories are used. So internal calls is that the consortium does the activities and presents their cost. And here in-kind contribution really comes in. And in-kind is everything that is not in cash, to put it very simple. And in-cash will not be used for internal calls. That's for external calls. And added cash can come by the consortium, by external finances. Now, as I said, this is an opportunity to use. And really depends on what purpose fits the objectives of the partnership best. So that depends on, I guess, what also you discussed during today and later on, in what objective you want to achieve, what means you will have in terms of funding, in terms of in-kind and in cash. We received an indicative commitment from the countries where we had a lower in-kind contribution than in cash. That was also what we expected for the food system partnership. For other partnerships, it looked a bit different. So of course, it also depends on what is available, but there was still a significant indication of in-kind contribution that can be used for this purpose. Now, that was all I wanted to share for now, just to give you a bit of an overview and maybe set the scene. Yeah, wish you a a really good day with fruitful conversations, discussions, and really applying the systems approach in this partnership. Many thanks.
Thank you so much, Daniela. So we'll move into the question session. So maybe you can have a seat up front. Let's start by seeing if there's any questions from the live audience for Daniela. Not yet. So,
Hi, hello everybody. I'm Marina Sopenia from Spain, CDTI. I have a question regarding what you said, you mentioned about the grant agreement. So it is going to be different from the partnerships that started already in 2022, right? So it's going to be a single grant agreement to sign with the European Commission, and it will cover seven years? Okay, so it doesn't, it would end at, and it would end at the end of Horizon Europe, I guess, 2027, right? Or
But that will be beyond Horizon
Beyond.
Europe. Yes.
and does it mean that we can launch calls every year of the partnership?
Yes. Yes. So you will have a work program. So when the first proposal is submitted, it will include the SRIA and a draft work program for the first year.
For the first
Yes.
year.
Yeah, so not for the whole period.
So we could launch one co-fund call per year. It would mean that we could even launch 7 to 10 calls, no?
Well, how you define the work program, that's very specific. I don't want to go into details with the calls per work program. I don't think I'm the right person also to answer that, since we have a horizontal unit and our research executive agency who answers these questions. So I really also encourage you, if you have specific questions about implementation, there is the research inquiry system where you can submit your question. You will get an answer, and the answer will be published under FAQs. So it's a transparent process. So really encourage you, any specific questions about work program or calls. They're very important, and I understand really important to know, to submit them in the research inquiry system. Also encourage you to have a look at the other 3 partnerships, because they will have questions too. So if you check on the calls in the other partnerships, there you see also the FAQs, so you can see the questions that have been raised and the answers. Yes. Yeah.
For example, if everybody would agree, it could be one co-funded call per year. But it doesn't have to be. So I think there's no rule.
Exactly.
Right?
There's no rule. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Koch from Austria Wirtschaftsservice, which is an organization owned by the ministries, by some ministries in Austria. We are just going to start an initiative that is on food systems. So in content-wise, it matches very well with what you're planning to do. And right now we're thinking if it makes sense to be part of this program, of this project as well. And my question is, to be a partner, how big does, like, what is expected from you? How much would be the involvement if you're really in the partnership, also money-wise or time-wise? If you can answer that generally, I don't know.
I can start with a very general answer, maybe. Theoretically, anyone who is a legal entity can join the partnership. Now, there are different types of joining the partnership. You can be a full partner of the consortium. But you can also be an affiliated partner, for example. Then you're not part of signing the grant agreement, but you're still connected. In terms of what makes sense in terms of size or content, I think that's also to discuss within the group on what makes sense and how to best contribute. Exactly.
Yeah, I see another hand. We can have one last short question. And then, I mean, you will be around in the breaks, but we'll also have the presentation of the consortium later, and there's plenty of time to discuss. So if your question is not answered, there will be some opportunity later. So one last question.
Hi there, Wouter Speck from the Netherlands. A simple question. I know ERIAF is here. There are 250 regions in Europe. If you look at their smart specialization strategies, most of them have something about food. How are they being approached by the partnership, or in the future, how can they join the partnership? Because I know it's a lot about national funding, but I want also to raise the issue of regions who do have a lot of money, by the way.
But I think I shouldn't answer this question other than what I said, that theoretically, of course, they can join, but then it really, and I think that's what we already see in FOODPathS, you being represented also accounts for the relevance of regions. But when it comes to details on what makes sense, I think this is today probably a great opportunity to discuss, but also hand it over to Jasmina and Nicola if you want to add anything.
I think we'll leave it at that. We'll move to the next session because there also some more things will become clear. So thank you so much, Daniela.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
You want to... So can I, yes, Gilles, welcome. Yes. Your presentation is here.
Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here. It's quite new for me. I just rapidly present myself. I'm Gilles Ferron. I'm a research director at INRAE, and I am the coordinator of the Food System Partnership on behalf of the ANR, and I want to be crystal clear. I will defend, and I am defending the interests of the partnership only. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. So just as an introduction, sorry. So the previous step for the building of this partnership. So in November last year, the coordination and French group was set up, and we start to work on this. In December last year, there was a publication of the call, the official positioning of the France, and we launched a survey in order to collect the expression of interest from the different partners. And in January this year, we had an information meeting, and the final version of the 3A was launched and is under evaluation by the European Commission. So the next step, this is a kind of retro planning. So we need to submit the proposal in April. So in March, we need to finalize all the part B. In February, we need to write the proposal to expand the consortium and to position the different partners. And in January is finished, we improve the work plan and we position the work package leader and co-leader. So here, yes, okay, rapidly a presentation of the partnership building process. So the survey, I will present after the last update of the survey. And the first was to establish a core group, and in order to construct the work package and to expand the consortium. And I will present, I'm not present in detail how to expand the consortium and to insist of RPOs, because we have a lot of questions from RPOs. So RPOs that want to be involved in the partnership need to provide in-kind contribution and to have an operational role to take part in the consortium. And not all RPOs also will be included, but RPOs will have the possibility to apply to external call, of course. And also, you need to fill the survey. This is the tunnel to go and to be involved in the partnership. So I will present rapidly the core group. I will not name everybody because it will be too long, but today we are about 18, 19 in the core group from 9 different organizations. So you have all the name here. But I think that the presentation will be available, so people can have the possibility to see this slide. So rapidly, the presentation, the last update about the survey results. So we had 150 answers received. So thank you very much for your interest to the partnership. 31 organizations expressed their interest to fund in cash external call, and 9 funding organizations are pending. Most of them indicate a potential funding commitment of about 170 million euros to date. So we have 8 organizations, mainly RPOs, which express their interest to provide in-kind contribution. So we have a preliminary commitment of 38 million euros, so it's not enough. So we need to include more RPOs and to have more in-kind contribution. And many RPOs, of course, express interest to apply to external call. So this is the presentation of the, in Europe, of the different respondents. And on the right, you have the different country. So also I will not name of the country, but it's quite well distributed in Europe. But and if you don't see you in the countries, don't hesitate to fill the survey in order to expand the consortium. So one of the main steps of the partnership is also to have a work plan. So the approach to design the work plan is based on the 3A, of course, from other partnership. It must be consistent with the reference term of the call, of course, and also with input from the core group. And you will see that the work plan has significantly evolved during the last meeting. So this is a work plan. So this work plan is divided in 8 work packages. So the first and the philosophy of the first work package is of course the coordination, and the task leader will be ANR France. And the philosophy of the work plan is really around the 3A. So input from the other work package to the 3A and output from the 3A. So this work package 3A is of course a strategic work package. So the lead are INRAE and MMM. And also the role of the 3A is to impulse, to propose scientific and thematic topics for 2 main work package. WP3, that is the support for external call and mainly dedicated to the research and innovation activity of the 3A. And the WP4, this work package is dedicated to support. So I will not use the term internal call because it raises so many questions. So it's internal support with the in-kind contribution. And this support will be mainly dedicated to 2 work packages that correspond to the activity B and C of the 3A. So the Food System Observatory and the Food System Knowledge Hub and Living Labs. So for WP6, the task leader is Flanders Food, Belgium. And for the WP3, the task leader is Jülich, Germany. And we need a task leader. We are looking for task leader for WP4. It's not defined yet. And also we are under discussion for WP5. And you have 2 other important work packages, WP7, dedicated to communication, dissemination, and exploitation. And today the task leader is Ilvo in Belgium, but TIGAS expressed a strong interest to be also co-leader, so it will be decided very soon. And Atlas, a work package dedicated to impact and outreach, including internationalization, and the task leader is Aarhus University in Denmark. So now we have quite finalized the work plan. So the next step is to write the proposal and also to define, to finalize the task leader and the co-leader. But also something, I put this in bold, but to expand the consortium. As you see, we need really to include in the consortium people, countries from the south of Europe and the east of Europe. So we are working on this. And also to position the partner in the different tasks, considering expertise, wish, etc. So thank you for your attention. I'm afraid I'm a little bit late. It's okay. And also thanks to the core group, we are working very hard on this partnership. And if you have any questions.
Thank you so much, Gilles. I think that was a very comprehensive presentation. And indeed, we will now open the floor for questions. Don't hesitate.
Hi again, just a quick question. The only research performing organizations can be partners or in-kind partners. Did I get that right from the presentation?
Yes, for the in-kind contribution, it's mainly research performing organization because they will perform the activities as in living labs, knowledge hub, and the observatory.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Maroun El Mujabber. I'm representing SIAM, standing for Centre International de Haute Études Agronomiques Méditerranéennes. I'm working at the Italian seat of SIAM in Bari. As you might know, we are coordinating a sustainable food system med platform in collaboration with FAO, UFM, and PRIMA. So I think it's a good opportunity to join forces because we have a lot of things working there. So my presence here, I came on purpose to offer our willingness to collaborate together and to join forces, not to work in silos. So since we have a long-standing experience on food systems in the Mediterranean area and beyond. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Maroun.
You want to answer?
Okay, because I know Maroun for years now. So I'm so happy to see him today.
It's okay. Okay. Yeah, this is Estrella Fernandez. I work for the State Research Agency of Spain, AEI. And you didn't mention the co-funding ratio, the co-funding rate of the European Commission. At least I didn't.
Yes, the theoretical model,
it's a 30%. It's a 30%.
It has to be discussed in each task, as you know, because you are doing a huge work on waterfall. You are strongly involved in all the other.
We are involved in all of them, but
you know that we have to negotiate how we will cover the management costs. So we need to take some money, and this.
I know that. I know that. But no, my question was because in comparison with the agroecology partnership, they're going to be co-funded at the 50%.
Yes,
so my question is, 30. This is already fixed 30%.
30, yes.
That's okay. For the RPOs, in my view, I am a funder.
Yeah, I know.
But from the RPOs view, it is very difficult to do anything with a 30% of co-funding. So my question is, will RPOs in internal calls be covered with part of the co-fund from the external calls?
It's not possible.
Okay.
It's double funding.
So okay.
So
then any RPO that decides to be here has to count on this limited co-funding of 30%.
Actually, for the activities implemented in work package 5 and 6, their contribution in kind. They can apply to the external calls, the cash calls you will implement with us.
That's another thing.
Work package 3, but there will be a firewall to avoid any conflict of interest.
Yeah, but my question was for the funding,
yeah,
for the money coming from the European Commission.
They made a commitment in kind to their representative at the program committee of Cluster 6. So they knew the rules at that time. So they know, and they mention a commitment in kind.
Okay,
sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe also for the online, are there participants, are there online questions?
one online participant is saying that is commenting on cooperation with partners outside EU can be an added value on certain topics. And the question is internationalization not longer part of the work package?
So the question is internationalization.
Internationalization is under work package 8. Yes, outreach. Thank you, Nicola.
So in outreach, work package 8, yeah. Sorry, are there more questions online? No.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm Francesca Riccardi. I work for the, I represent the Free University of Bolzano, South Tyrol, but also the Autonomous Province of Bolzano, who that will be one of the funders. Just if you can explain a little bit more, because it's not so clear, the difference between internal calls and external calls. Okay, I understood, okay, in kind and cash, but it's not so clear who could participate in the internal calls. Thank you.
For external calls will be managed by funding bodies, ministries who provide contribution, cash contribution, and the calls are usual call for proposal, which are open to all eligible entities to the funding, the participating funding bodies. So, for instance, your region can come and join these external calls and say, I will fund the research organization or the companies established in my region. And as a university, if you want to implement the activities under knowledge hubs, food system observatory, living labs, you have to be member of the consortium and do a commitment in kind, that is to say, to get some working effort, working staff, you accept to dedicate to the common goods of the partnership. And you have to be member of the consortium, member of the partnership, and sign the grant agreement for that purpose. So it's, thank you.
Okay, we will have one more question, the final question, but of course you and Claude will be around for lunch and for the drink, well, not for the drinks after, I think, but
yes, but for lunch at least.
Yeah, so you
Marina,
you can
if
catch them in the hallway.
we can talk.
Hi, I'm Emilia Notlund from VTT Finland. I would like to ask about the geographical balance in the partnership. Now it looked like maybe not so. It was when there was the list of funders, it was very well balanced, Eastern Europe, and everybody was covered, but maybe not in the partners yet shown in the VP work package structure. So are you now looking for more or having better geographical balance, or how would you comment on that?
So your question is about the organizations that are involved in the work plan and then as a task leader or the work package leader. Okay. So yes, we will enlarge, and now we are in a bidding process in order to include more partners in the different work package. So partners from of course, from other part of Europe, and but as I say, partners really need to fill the survey in order to explain where we want. You have the work package now, it's easier to position the RPOs in the different and to ask expression of interest for this work package or this work package. I just want to add one thing for the what we say internal calls. Well, we don't want to use this, but we really need the help and input to know how to manage this support instrument to the two activities, food system and knowledge hub, food system observatory and knowledge hub. Yeah, in my opinion, it could be really a chance to really share something and to be quite flexible in order to adjust as possible to the evolution of the partnership and the thematic and the how to fill the different gaps, etc. So we need input how to design this, and also we are looking for package leader Colin on this work package.
Thank you. I think we have to move to the next session. There was one last online question about how can people join the consortium, how to become a partner, you have to fill in the survey, right?
For RPOs, you really need to have an in-kind contribution. It's not possible, it's mandatory. So after, there's also possibilities to apply to external call, maybe to be involved in some board, like advisory board. But if you want to be in the consortium and to sign the general agreement, you need to provide in-kind contribution. It's mandatory.
Thank you. I have to be strict here, Nico. Okay, you're my boss.
Yeah, sorry. Just a comment, because actually compared to the old co-fund instrument, everybody who's working in the partnership will only get 30% reimbursement. So not only RPOs, but everybody. Also, if the funder is working in the work package, you will also only get 30% reimbursement. So that's the reimbursement rate of the partnership instrument in general. So just to add to it.
Thank you for that clarification. So any unanswered questions, please catch up with Gilles and Claude over lunch. Yes, then we move on to the next session. And I would like to call on our dear colleague Frank of Jülich to run us through some interesting examples of food system funding approaches and research approaches.
Yes, thank you for the introduction. Yes, Mina. Now we have to switch a little bit our minds, because now we talked a lot about the food system partnership, internal, external calls and things like that. And now we want to go more into a topic, and the topic is food systems approach. And to make that easier for all of us, I've brought some examples of projects that we have funded in the past where we think, oh, those projects have included a food systems approach, so that you know what we mean by food system approach. Yeah, somehow today we have a problem with the layout of the slides, actually. I've brought you three projects. The first one is a project from Ireland, actually. It stems from our Thus Food FOSC joint call. And the project is called Smart Dairy. And as you may guess, it's about dairy. It's about climate smart dairy, assessing challenges, innovations, and solutions. And it addresses a food sector where we can say it has a very high need for transformation if it wants to become sustainable. So the milk sector is not sustainable at the moment, but this project tries to find out how it could be. With regard to climate change, most importantly, but also about nutrient cycles, biodiversity, there's a lot of things to be done. And in this project, they really look at it from different points of view and also in different countries. And they have really innovative investigations and innovative ideas. So they look at feed additives to reduce methane emissions. They look at evaluation of climate smart policies and business models. Yes, they look at the design and testing of a pilot carbon market for dairy products, and also make an assessment of the consumer's willingness to pay for more sustainable milk. So yes, the project has a very high interdisciplinarity. It includes agricultural and consumer economics, psychology people, sociology, people from animal nutrition, animal genetics, agronomy, chemistry, and it has a strong focus on economics and sociology. So it's a very, what we would think, a very system-oriented project. Yes, you can also see that here, that's the countries they come from. It's coordinated by an Irish organization, but there's also people from UK, Finland, Italy involved. Yes, so the systems approach here is that it has a high impact potential for the food system in Europe by investigating a dairy system. It is a very multidisciplinary approach. It includes also trade-off synergies to existing projects and also to existing to the frameworks around, for example, the political frameworks. And as a proposal is planned in a very participatory approach with a high multi-stakeholder involvement, including also many companies and other relevant stakeholders. So that's what we were looking for when we wrote the call. Yeah, and it also includes the consumer perspective and the consumer behavior and consumer acceptance, which is also very important and should not be forgotten in the systems approach. So yes, there's 6 universities from 4 countries plus associated partners. And the second project, we are here in Belgium, so I thought I include a project about beer. It's a project that's called Algae Brew. It's unlocking the potential of microalgae for the valorization of brewery waste products into omega-3 rich animal feed and fertilizers. So what are they doing? They're taking the waste water and the solid waste created by the brewery industry and put it in together with algae and let the algae grow on it. And then they feed this algae, which contain omega-3 rich, which are rich in omega-3 fatty acids. So they use that as a feed for fish in that case, which we can then, of course, later eat the fish. And also the leftover, what it's not, the non-fatty acid parts of the algae, they can use as a fertilizer to fertilize the fields where the barley for the beer is grown. So that's basically what they do. It sounds like a very technical project, and you could have easily done it in a very technical way, just looking at the process and if the technique works or not. But the project decided to do it in a systems approach, and to really include all the questions about what if our technique works, which is also investigated in the project in one work package. If it works, what influence will it have on the system? So, and the consortium structure very nicely reflects the system approach. It includes relevant industry stakeholders from the beginning of the project, even during the writing of the proposal, as partners already, and also as associated partners. They have a dedicated work package towards socioeconomics, doing LCAs, for example. You can really see it in the work package that they thought about. Okay, we also include some milestones and deliverables about our systems approach in our milestones and deliverable tables. And you can already see in the proposal that they have an explicit chapter about what will be the impacts of our project after the project has been done. So in ecological view, in economical view, and in social view, and it's already in the application. So you have 8 partners and 1 associated partner. It's a lot of universities, 7 universities, but also 2 industrial partners, mainly a beer brewery and a feed producer. And then, of course, you can have projects on a systems level with a good systems approach that really focus on the system itself. So that really do research on the system, like, for example, Systemic, which stems from the JPI, Oceans JPI, HEHL, and FATCHE JPI. It's a joint initiative of these 3 JPIs. And if you have more questions to that, I'm not so familiar with that, of course, because I'm not part of that JPI, so you can ask Yasmina later about that. And that's a knowledge hub that is really looking into, to find out what are the impacts of climate change on nutritional quality and composition of food, to understand the consequences on human diets and health, propose adaptive strategies, measures to ensure global European food and nutrition security. And the Knowledge Hub aims to identify knowledge gaps and key challenges, and also possible adaptive measures and improvements, and also new research areas. So yeah, you can read the possible themes there. It's about nutritional composition, bioavailability of nutrients in food, by biofortification and crop breeding, agronomic improvement and marine interventions. Improved management of marine and land resources. You see here the different focus there. There's also the marine focus, and you know the food systems is not only land-based. You can also have a lot of marine focus there. It's very important also to include that. Dietary diversification is a very hot topic. I think you all heard about that. We should eat more plant resources to be more sustainable. Changing the practice of actors in the food system and to improve diets is also a very important point. Oh, that's difficult to read now. Yes. So, but you basically see that the Knowledge Hub should deliver impact to 3 main stakeholder groups. So also the stakeholder groups are addressed here, which is very important, not to focus on one part of the food chain, but to focus on all stakeholder groups. And yes, so it's a kind of a big project compared to the other ones. It has 28 partners from 8 countries and covering 13 disciplines. So yeah, that is really a systemic project, so to say, like the name already suggests. So that's from my side, just that you have a feeling what are we talking about if we talk about a system approach and projects. So you have 3 examples. I could have easily brought a lot more, but we won't stay here the whole day. So that's just a selection of 3.
Thank you so much, Frank. I think that was a very nice illustration of how also food systems perspective can be approached from different sides. I would like to call on you, Nicola, for the next talk show session.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, I will just not touch it. So are you going to show the slides, or is it? Okay, we will just work without slides. Yeah, thank you very much, Frank, for showing these projects. And I think it's really important to think about, okay, we're doing this partnership to have such projects and to have the implementation of the systems approach and to really get the results that we need to transform the system. So with this, I would like to turn to back to our work and work package 3, because as you have seen, we have a variety of partners, and I would like to invite my friends and colleagues to be with me for this next 10-minute session. So we have Yasmina from SonMW, which is a funding organization, but she's also representing JPI HDHL. We have also from the more, let's say, public funding sector, Ivana, who's working for ICROFS in Denmark, and she's representing Cororganic Network. We have Terry from SEAMP in Finland. She's representing AREA, the network of regions. And welcome to Julia, representing Philea. So it's a philanthropic organization representing also the foundations. So you see that we have here also the variety of organizations that should support the partnership. So yeah, we did interviews during our work in work package 3, talking to funders, getting their experiences. So that was very valuable. But of course, we also work every day with the funders and other organizations. So I would like to give a question to all of you, and that is, what are their perspectives towards the future funding in the partnership? And I would like to start with Terry about the perspectives of the regions. What are your experiences?
Okay, thank you, Nicola. Well, first, I would like to, of course, introduce AREA. There was someone mentioned already regions. Why not regions are not involved, but actually AREA network is involved here. And AREA, actually, it's a network for European regions for innovation in agriculture, food and forestry. And actually, there are already something like 100 regions all over Europe involved in this network. And many of these are represented here today, and I think quite many also online. And I interviewed 5 regions. And as a conclusion, I could say that there is extremely wide interest for this partnership in all of these regions I discussed with, because usually they find all this partnership and collaboration very positive and very fruitful for their regions. But one very important thing that raised up was that generally in regions, ERDF money, European Regional Development Funding money, it's very important for regions. And in regions and in countries, there are some differences in the regulations for the use of this money. And for example, in some countries, it's a little bit unclear whether this money can be used for this partnership. And that is something that raised up, and we have to find the question for that, or answer for that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to ask the question to Julia. So what are the perspectives of foundations towards the future in the partnership?
So thank you. So just a word maybe on Philea. Philea is it's an association based here in Brussels. It's Philanthropy Europe Association. And as I said, we are a membership organization of around 195 philanthropic organizations and 28 national associations of foundations. I guess some of you in particular working, representing public authorities may know some foundations in your area. So we represent the philanthropic ecosystem, let's say, in Europe. So in terms of perspective, I must say that, we are associate partners with Fondazione Cariplo, an Italian-based foundation. And the thing that you need to take into consideration that you cannot, really define a role for funders because they are very different from one another in terms of mission, vision, geographical scope, and also type of projects they can invest on or support grants, provide grants for. But one important thing and also it's why we decided to join this project is because of philanthropic organizations, foundations, public benefit foundations can really play a catalyzing role. They do have a lot of experience in putting together in the same room, let's say, policymakers, local actors like entrepreneurs, local producers, think tanks, civil society organizations. And this experience of working in the backside of those projects, it's really important, and it's really providing a lot of impacts and results. So they support accelerators, they support incubators, CSOs, research centers. So there is a lot of knowledge maybe on this topic. Just one other point that I wanted to mention. It's important for the foundation sector maybe to shift this perception. I want to bring with you this key message that it's really we are there. We decided to join and to contribute because philanthropic organization could be good co-creators in this projects, and we want to shift the perception that funders, philanthropic funders, are just need to be involved at the end of the process, so they can bring knowledge, expertise, contacts, and that's why also this is the added value from our side to the development of the activities of the partnership.
Okay, thank you very much. And yeah, Ivana and or Yasmina, you want to add what were your outputs from the interviews?
Thank you, Nicola. Warm welcome again and greetings to everybody. My name is Ivana and I work in ICROFS at Aarhus University, and we are supporting Euronet Co-Organic. So it's a network of public institutions, ministries of science, ministries of agriculture, that has worked together funding research in organic food and farming since 2004. And maybe some of you have been part of this type of public networks. We have collaborated a lot with colleagues from Sasswood, with Nicola and Frank. The landscape has actually been changed by European Commission. So from the networks, we move into what we have discussed this morning, partnerships. And that is a major shift for many public institutions. It's not easy just from one day to another day to change the whole system. So from the interviews, what we have gathered from the partners, that upscaling the call machinery. So we have a larger calls, we have more partners, we have many things that have been upscaled from one network to a whole partnership that actually puts challenges to a national level as well. So we have a vision that is European, that is transnational, but at the same time, funders say we need to negotiate more at home. We need to prepare differently at home. We need suddenly to collaborate across ministries. It's not only our single institution that is asked. So I think in our preparations, we need to be sensitive to these processes that are a basis for the future partnership. And I think that we are as a team, but I think we would also like to have your input. Where are the bottlenecks? So where do you see that the most difficult aspects come? And thank you very much for being here and for helping in this process. Thank you, Nicola.
Okay, thanks. You can have your own microphone.
Well, just briefly, because I realize we're running maybe over time a bit. Yeah, I mean, echoing also a bit what Ivana said from our network. perspective that, I mean, there's a lot of willingness when you ask people, you know, in this future partnership, working in a food systems perspective and according to a food systems approach, everyone is willing, but the different funders, the different ministries are still sort of trying to see, okay, how does that work in practice? So we have quite an active mirror group, for example, for JPI HEHL, which covers different ministries and funding bodies and disciplines. But they express a need to, yeah, let's get into this process of co-creation and trying to really, you know, change our ways, because we're not sure how to do it. We're not sure. Yeah, we try to work across different bodies, but yeah, that's one of the things that really stood out when we discussed. And then, yeah, there's still the risk that the usual suspects are on board. But really to help and guide and also come with ideas to see what works and what doesn't. I think it's also a lot about trial and error, because obviously there's rules and regulations, but within those, I think, at least from the Dutch perspective, quite a lot is possible. And I also wanted to mention that we also did some interviews with our network, about 4 or 5. And there's a lot also happening at the national level. For example, there was a very interesting Romanian example of a project that was really, yeah, covering different themes and already had this food systems perspective, and also was mandatory in sort of the whole setup, where they had an integrated project of 5 sub-projects across spanning from soil, so primary production, soil and primary production, and going to consumers and dietary behavior. So I think it comes to these examples also to pick and learn.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, so the systems approach, I mean, we're now trying to solve like holistic challenges. We have holistic questions, but the question is, can also the funding mechanisms come up to this? So that is why we're today also working on the systems approach. But maybe for the foundations in the regions, how visible is the systems approach already in your programs or in your projects? Is it already there? Do you have examples? Did you find some examples?
Okay, I could start now. In regions, this approach has been, of course, tested within the limits of project goals, just to summarize it like that. But I got the impression that mainly it has been studied through circular economy project, for example, from aspects from field to fork, or some from production to waste management aspect, like, or perspectives like this. And one of the challenges regions mentioned was that the changing of the program period, sometimes it happens that the criteria of the goals, they may change and the work may be left unfinished. It's the big problem sometimes. And very important thing they mentioned was that this system approach, it involves many stakeholders, and all stakeholders must have a consensus. But very often they may have different goals. They may speak a little bit different language and even have a little bit different terminology. So those were the points that I wanted to raise up.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, so taking a systemic approach is a big conversation within the philanthropic sector, of course. I mean, and it's expanding. I mean, I can bring you, I mean, there are already quite a few examples in the environmental sector that we know of, because of course, I mean, also with all the conversation around climate change, there was a lot about, you know, taking a systemic change for such wide challenge, let's say. In the food sector as well, I mean, there are conversations around taking like a systemic approach, because there is a recognition that, I mean, projects related to the food sector I mean, there is this cross, the food sector is so interlinked with all sectors. There is no way that you tackle you change it, transform the food systems without having a large and a systemic approach. So this is out of discussion. This is really needed. Circular economy is indeed one of the topic, but we are having quite a number of discussion around fair ecological transition in several areas, from which we could take some good examples that then can be applied. And foundations are really working a lot in bringing together different stakeholders, from the local actors to the national and international level.
Okay, so you would say that already in the mission of some of the foundations,
Yes.
this systems approach is already kind of visible.
It's challenging also for philanthropic organizations, of course, but let's say that with this catalyst approach that they may have some experience.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, thanks to all of you for these very quick insights. Of course, we have much more information gathered, but we just wanted to give you a glimpse of what we're also doing and the different perspectives that we're trying to take into account. So thank you very much. And of course, we're happy to take questions. So if you have questions to any of the colleagues or anything that you heard now, or you would like to comment or give another experience. Yes, Tom, please.
There are different end users. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, I heard already some end user groups or funders, but is there also a talk around with companies, with the private sector, around how they see their contribution to the partnership?
You mean now private funders, or you mean like industry partners that are in the productive area?
I think both, actually, but more the latter, more the companies. Or the companies, associations, or the foundations linked to companies. Yes.
So we'll pass the word to Inge, but for answering for FOODPath perspective, it is not our focus to go into a dialogue with like producers for FOODPath in our work package. We are more focusing on really the funding. Where can we get the funding for the research? But of course, it's important. So in the overall theme, this is important also.
It's very important because I'm Inge Arns, I'm from Flanders Food, and we will take the work package 6, and we are an innovation platform, and our founding partners are companies, food companies in Flanders. We are also coordinating some networks with food clusters in Europe, and we are also in the network of the national technology food platforms. And we try to convince them also to go in this partnership, to bring with them all the food companies and SMEs in the partnership. But it's very difficult also because of the in-kind contribution. So if somebody wants to help us in work package 6 as a co-lead, I think it's still open, but we had to look for some Eastern European partners also. But I think this is a very important thing, and it's only in one of the work packages that it's really in focus. And I think it's important that others also are aware of the fact that we need also that kind of partners in the consortium. But as Nicola said today, it's only for the funders, the people with the cash money. So we are looking for the people with in-kind money.
Any more questions, or maybe online? No?
My concern is beyond Europe at the international level. I work myself for a platform, the platform of African European Partnerships on Agriculture Research for Development. It was supported by DG Research 2007-2010 and by DG INTPA, International Partnerships, since 2010. I have been member of SCAR and also of ARCH. SCAR Standing Committee for Agriculture Research, and ARCH stands for Agriculture Research Global Challenges. Now, from the SCAR perspective and the ARCH perspective, DG Research supported as two think tanks. It would be very relevant to see what comes out of this consortium, but also at the international level. I refer to an evaluation report that was just released, which was an evaluation of the sustainable agri-food systems support at global level, European Commission, INTPA. It was produced by the European Centre for Development Policy and Management, ECDPM. And there it is recognized that there's a high fragmentation at the level of Europe, bilateral, but also many institutions are involved into food systems research, and it has to be urgently overcome. Now, the question is, how will work package 8, I think, which is outreach, and work package 5, which is about communication, how will those work packages deal at the international level? We have also FAO, IFAD, World Food Programme. Just to give you some figures, the support of the European Union for the FAO between 2014 2020 was 1,350,000,000. The support to IFAD was 4,700,000,000. The support to World Food Programme is even more, 1,800,000,000. It means that the European Union is investing a lot in this, what we call the research, the Rome-based agencies. How will we work on those connections, communication-wise, and into the outcomes of what will come out of the food systems consortium?
Yeah, thank you
That's
very much.
a very good and big question.
Yeah, well, I would like to I will not find an answer fully to your question. I think it's also a comment to take with us. Answering from the FOODPath perspective, which is a project on its own, of course. We have in FOODPath a work package 7, which is looking at global issues, at the interconnections, at what is going on. They will work with mirror groups on a global level also to get into dialogue and to also see where are already where's already important knowledge to build on. So there is activities planned in FOODPath, and these results should then feed into the partnership. But of course, this is from FOODPath perspective. And of course, from the partnership perspective, I think it is planned to include the scope beyond Europe. But of course, I cannot answer for the partnership. So I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Well, just several of the funding body involved, which will be involved, are also strongly involved in cooperation, in the context of the cooperation between the African Union and the European Union. And my funding body with other colleagues, we are coordinating a European program called Food System and Climate with South America, Africa, and Europe for sure. And we are also involved in PRIMA that Maroon cited earlier, which embed the south and the north of Mediterranean. And we are for sure in this context will open our perspectives, but we are extremely connected. And INR is also co-chair of the Belmont Forum, which gathers the countries of the G20. So we are really involved in these issues.
Any more questions? We still have a few minutes, and online, I'm just looking at my colleagues.
Okay, any more experiences that you would like to share with food systems approach? Now would be your chance.
Yeah, maybe since I'm holding the mic. Yeah.
Oh, you have another one.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking back in my memory, because I used to work in the water and environment sector, and there was also at some point intense discussions in the sector on how can we really work from a systems perspective. And there it was organized according to theme, but at some point we said, you know, when you look at the water system, it has a very geographic elements as well. So you look at a basin, or you look at a sub-basin of a river, and where the water goes and how it's used by different stakeholders. So maybe that analogy Of course, the food system has different characteristics, but I think it could maybe help us also to break it down into maybe smaller elements, because we have regional perspective, we have local perspective, we have, of course, the urban perspective. So maybe that's something to think about.
Thank you for this comment. To complement with this, I would like to mention the water, energy, food, and ecosystem nexus. I don't know if you're aware of this. I think it was developed in Hedge 2020 project. There is a project cluster on this. So, I mean, maybe it's too wide, but it could be explored, just trade-off synergies.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I think we'll definitely have a look at that and explore how we can interact. Welcome back. I hope you had a good lunch. As you might have seen, we've changed the setup of the room because it's also reflecting the type of session. It's going to be a very interactive session. Of course, if you have trouble standing, please grab a chair, feel free. But we want this to have sort of an active feel to it. I want to give the floor to our colleague Susanna from Aarhus University. Please, Susanna.
Thank you, Jasmina. So I am going to be entertaining you for a little while now. I'm Susanna, I'm from Aarhus University. I'm on loan from Work Package 2, so that's why you haven't really seen me being that active for the rest of the day. I'm not used to giving presentations and holding things in my hands. I tend to talk with my hands, so apologies if I end up throwing something at someone. But what we're going to talk about now is just a bit more theoretically on what is actually meant by a food systems approach, and how we might want to operationalize that down into the call texts. So I am just going to start. Wrong way. Okay. Technology. Yes, it was literally just working. Yes. Okay. So food systems theory is simply a holistic way to look at a food system that embraces all the different elements, so environment, people, processes, and activities related to the production, processing, distribution, marketing, preparation, and consumption of food. You can have varying levels of complexity depending on how much you focus on interactions between actors, often with specific objective roles and interests, how much you look at different feedback loops between the different points in the system. So say you change something in the processing of a food, that might change both in the direction going forward, so how it's marketed, how it's consumed, but it also might actually change how things are produced. So that's one way of thinking of a feedback loop. So simply that a change in one part of the system will always have an effect on the system in its entirety. You would also need to understand the different interdependencies. Obviously, different parts of the system are interdependent on one another. You can't have processing without production. You can't have processing without somewhere to put it. So marketing and consumer interest. So that's just something to be aware of, the different interactions, the complexity, and the interdependencies. You should also be able to start to look for drivers for change. So that can be pressure from different stakeholders. It can be policies, it can be innovation, it can be all of those things at once, which it usually is. Yeah. But you also need to be able to identify barriers to change. You might have negative feedback loops. You might have stakeholders with very keen interests in one way and stakeholders with the same amount of powers with a keen interest in a different direction. So you might have lock-ins where simply changing the system might become very, very difficult. So a fully realized food systems approach, and that might not be what we're actually talking when we are talking operationalization, but a fully realized food systems approach should look at impacts of change across the full system. So again, talking about different processing, you can't just look at the change in the processing in and of itself. You need to look at the change across the full system. You should consider all domains and dimensions of that change. So that could be environmental, it could be social, it could be economic, and you need to account for system dynamics. So a system is constantly changing. There are many different actors. They're very heterogeneous. Even the ones that we tend to lump together as one have very different interests, very different sort of ways of looking at things. So you need to be able to account for that in a way where you don't make your system static, and in a way where you don't actually try to force certain perspectives onto certain actors. And then a question for you guys, I'm not going to answer it, but what are then the most important aspects of this approach to include in a transnational call mechanism under a sustainable food systems partnership, especially taking into account that we have different levels. We have you guys, most of you anyway, the funders, who will have to implement this in a call mechanism, who will have to work on project selections, who will have to work on national and regional levels with your programming. We have researchers who will need this call text, and whatever criteria or guidelines you implement will need to actually develop projects on the basis of this. And finally, we have experts that will need to do project evaluation, that will need to measure our impacts, that will need to synthesize knowledge on the food system level, and might also actually need to feed back into the consortium through knowledge hubs and food system observatories. And that might actually seem kind of scary, but it has been done before. So this is an example of a call text from Iranets, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague Ivana.
Thank you very much, Susanne. Thank you also for your attention. It's, of course, a second part after the meeting, and I have seen that some new colleagues have joined us. Warm welcome for your participation. This morning we have discussed how do we implement partnerships. So from your funders' perspective, from the research performing organization perspective, there are still questions that are open. But one of the important and open question is when we come to fund the projects, now we are moving along the system thinking, and Susanne has explained theoretically what it means. But you as a funders know that back in your institutions, you have to have certain criteria adopted, developed into national regulations, and also agreed for the call texts. In the past, this is an example of Iranet call. So it's mainly public funders and across two different networks, SAS-Food2 and Core Organic, that have worked on a call in 2019 towards sustainable and organic food systems. And at that time, we already recognized that we need to do something. We cannot just fund the plant production and animal production and food processing and say, excellent, this is a system approach. So in order to address this issue, we worked on the criteria that you can see we have called them a cross-cutting criteria. So we didn't call them food system approach criteria, but this was the first attempt, or one of the attempts, to have a multi-actor approach, multidisciplinary approach, and a system approach where we prescribed or recommended to think about interconnections, synergies between the actors, to consider economic, environmental, social, and all other aspects. The story is not finished. I mean, we've done the work until a certain level, but this, if we are really working in food system partnership, is not sufficient. So all good ideas, or just jointly recognizing what kind of parameters, what kind of characteristics, what kind of criteria we need to say, yes, this activity is really affecting a food system that we are working. It could be regional, it could be a different scale, but still that we are not just touching a little bit on the sideline of one part of not only of a production, but on overall system level. Is this something like this? Yeah. The cross-cutting, please, Astrid.
When you had this criteria for the call, was it well understood by applicants, and was it well answered? Because when we had the Green Deal Farm to Fork topic, we had a lot of question of systems thinking was at that moment was still a bit new. So I was wondering if you had challenging evaluation and in the type of proposal you received.
This is a very relevant aspect. We have analyzed it, and I think we have presented the projects where we think that the system approach was evident, but this certainly could be strengthened with a more measurable criteria, with more, how can you say, more innovative ways how to see it, so both that experts can evaluate it and the researchers can integrate better in their applications. So to a certain extent, yes, but I think this workshop is actually to give us a chance to do a level 2. And level 2 can be supported by some of additional things together with cross-cutting issues. From SRIA, we have lots of inspiration, and that is a joint document that we have worked on. But consider that we have also asked, for instance, to think about added value. So transnational cooperation, geographical coverage, together with the cross-cutting criteria, innovation, technology readiness level. It was not the highest technology readiness level, but this is another aspect that could be very valuable. And scales, and this becomes very important, thinking of national and regional funders and of a time scale. We have worked also to limited extent with this. So 2050, what is it that we find in supermarkets? Are we happy or whatever? Are we producing something in our backyards? So these aspects are all coming into our interactive session. So the question from Astrid was a very relevant question. Whatever we have done until now, has it really responded to food system criteria? To some extent, but it can be much more. And that is a call for all of you. Today, maybe it's the only hour where you will be creative on this point, but please do. I think we have just a summarizing slide. We call it nota bene. We are thinking beyond production level. So the production level is something that we are maybe good at, plant production, animal production, but this time we are looking more holistically in the full food system production. There are elements to be embraced. We have also mentioned them: environment, social aspects, processes, institution, markets, and power relations. And then activities that are not only production, but also distribution and marketing, consumption, consumers. And importantly, maybe this was for me, it was important when I first saw it, we are thinking about complex systems. We are not thinking about complicated systems. So we're not trying to make it complicated, we're trying to think of complex and integrated systems. So not just mixed system. We have one farmer, one researcher, and one institution, and it's very, very systemic. No, that is mixed system, but we try to think of integrated system. And I think we stop with the presentations here. We have just a few words on how now the group work will proceed. And I give floor to Marijte. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ivana. Yes, I would like to introduce the creative part of this meeting. And now we're going to work. We want to identify guiding points for the food system approach. And we will do it like Ivana will tell us a case. So we have in mind what could be the call. And then we will work on the the core level and the evaluation level and on the impact level. So we do it like this.
We have recently as a team seen that questions of synthetic milk have been very highly evaluated both by producers, by ethical committees, and we are willing to understand how our SRIA work, so in the food system partnership, will manage to address this kind of innovation that is relevant both for consumers, for producers, for public institutions, and that is environmentally challenging. Please consider, I don't know how much you have had an experience, but this scientific innovation that is called sometimes cellular agriculture, sometimes is called like a post-animal bioeconomy. It's really something that is relevant. It's done based on precision fermentation. So you take a little protein, you put it in the yeast, and then this yeast ferments, and then you have multiplication of cells that are equal like any other cells, and you get a milk. We think that this group of people should creatively think, in case we have this kind of innovative situations in our calls, how is it that we have a sufficient measures, criteria, characteristics that we can address this on call level, on impact level, and on expert evaluation level. So this is just to trigger you. There could be any other innovative topic or maybe less innovative topic, but you have seen the problems until now. We are very good at identifying criteria up to a certain level. The system level has not been reached. So we count on your thinking. As we said, if it's the only hour that you will be doing this, please do it now and this afternoon. And Yasmina, I think you maybe have a second step to this.
Maybe just to release the online participants and say thank you to them. And sorry, we can't have you join in the interactive session. Thank you for your active participation.